I found 8 games that you've probably never played before, and a couple of them are even free, which is a pretty good price. Number 8, Frozen Flame. Well-known adventure game that didn't exactly have the best launch, but it's still in early access, so it'll probably be something good in the future as long as developers don't all over it. It's very different to most survivor games since it's set in a fun and not so depressing looking environment. It's pretty and doesn't make me want to rip my eyeballs out. You can build houses, craft shit, gather knowledge to become more powerful, and a lot more that you can kind of just discover by playing. Number 7, Remnants, a survival game that I found about 3 weeks ago, and I tried it, and honestly, it's okay. Like, there's a reason these games have 0 players. Either they aren't in a very fun state, they're not very known, or they have low replayability, and this game feels like a mixture of the 3, but it is also kind of good. And there are actually people who play it from time to time. It's a lot like Rust, but it has zombies, which are really fucking annoying, by the way, going through buildings to find resources, and driving around on some Neon Rider glowing golf carts. The best feature, by the way. The graphics aren't crazy good, and the performance wasn't great, but the game has promise, and it's still receiving a ton of updates, so if you want to pick up the game early before it maybe blows up, then this could be that game. Even the reviews are actually mostly positive, which for a survival game that almost nobody plays is pretty rare. It doesn't even make much sense why more people don't play this. It's literally a cheap version of Rust without the nudity, so actually maybe that's why. Number 6, The Wandering Village, a sandbox building game that you've probably heard of at some point, but it's only recently released, and it was actually very well received with pretty positive reviews, but the player base hasn't really picked up like crazy. In fact, it's actually dropped below 50 at some points recently, so it is the most popular game on this list, but it deserves a lot more traction, so it's here anyway. The entire concept is just about building shit on the back of a dragon, so it's definitely unique. But of course, the rest of the world is a post-apocalyptic environment, which feels like the setting for almost every single game nowadays. But essentially, you just build and build and build until you get bored, and I guess you have to survive at some points, but it's far more chill than most games. I mean, even I'd be fine, I think. Number 5, Technicity. I know some of you will love this shit, so I had to include it. This game literally has 0 players, but very positive reviews and a pretty good game considering it's only a few months old. It's pretty much a baby city skylines without a lot of the cool stuff, but a lot of things are also different, and terraforming and road building is a lot more flexible, and it also has some automation included within factories, so this is kind of as if Satisfactory and City Skylines had a baby, except this baby is the runt of the litter and needs some work before it's anything crazy good. Definitely have a look though if you like these kind of sim games where you can just destroy the earth whenever you're having a bad day. Also, Technicity has some kind of co-op mode, which doesn't usually exist within these new games, but this seems to be a couple steps ahead. All it needs is a couple players, maybe a few years of consistent updates, and it'll be some kind of finished product. Number 4, Fargone, another RPG survival game because, well, take a look at my channel. There's quite a clear theme. Fargone honestly looks like Roblox, but this art style has really bounced back recently with a lot of good games using it. But this game still doesn't have co-op, which was what the developer wanted to include most from the start, but they have also said it will be coming in Q2 of this year, so once that comes out, it'll be more of a complete game and much more similar to the likes of the Stalker series, Fallout, Project Zombie, and that kind of thing. It's really a mix of all of those, but one of its main competitors on Steam is literally almost a replica, and it's called Surrounded. Surrounded is arguably the better game, but that's also why it has about 20 times more players, but maybe that will change. Obviously, the low poly graphics aren't everyone's cup of tea, and probably not mine either. I do just feel as if I'm playing a Roblox ripoff of Rust every time I play these games, but I get it's way better than just that. Especially Surrounded, because it feels like they're close to perfecting the approach. Anyways, Fargone, it has a far way to go before it's perfect. And it might never be perfect, but its player count of literally 5 lonely people definitely doesn't do it justice right now. Number 3, Oddwoods, another game I kept getting recommended and finally gave into, and it's good. Good-ish. The game is clearly far from finished, but for a survival game with pretty good animations and visuals and only 19 reviews, it's still a fucking baby. It's also just developed by one fella, Matt, So good job, Matt. Obviously, the game isn't bad, that's why it's third on the list. I played it, and of course, I got lost, but when I wasn't lost and shitting my pants because of a bear, it was fun. It's pretty similar to any average survival game. Build your shit shack a day, fight animals with suspect mouths, and also whatever this thing is, and then survive at night in your house. Simple concept. The game is still receiving big updates every few weeks as well, and I think it'll be a cute little survival game in no time. So considering it's not crazy expensive, I don't think it'll be too long until there's more than 0 people playing the game. And it's not as if the game is entirely incomplete too. The AI is already pretty impressive, a lot of mechanics work flawlessly, and the progression is decently streamlined. It's obvious what you have to do most of the time, but eventually you do kind of hit a brick wall where you've completed everything that's in the game, so there isn't much replayability past what has already been added, especially without co-op, but it will get there eventually. Number 2, Farlands, a game that's actually featured on this channel before, so a lot of you have probably seen it. Either way, it had to be in here because for whatever reason, almost nobody plays it still. Actually, that probably is because of the lack of content, but that'll change since the developer is close to releasing a couple big updates that'll probably change up the game a lot. Already, the game has building, electricity, 2 dimensions, pretty good graphics, and a bunch of other shit that a game like Rust has. But they're also planning on adding new POIs, new building types, co-op, automation, more mobs, and that kind of stuff. Honestly, this game suits me because it isn't crazy difficult and I don't have to look up a question on the game's wiki every 2 fucking minutes or have to Google where I find sand because it's quite obvious that shit is always on the beach. It just feels like everything in this game makes sense. But it's also simplified, a lot like the game I mentioned earlier, Rust. The 2 games are very alike, but since this one is developed by one guy, it's obviously just a tiny bit behind and has about 90,000 less players. I'd put good money on Firelands being much popular in a couple years time, but I won't curse it. Oh, and this game has horses that you can literally jump with. Like the horses jump when you hit space. Yes, I know. That is unironically groundbreaking shit. Number 1, Arid. Arguably one of the most polished unknown games on Steam, but it's also a university project, which is sick, honestly. That does mean though that it takes about 7 to 8 hours to complete and doesn't receive updates anymore since the developers have probably graduated or something. And if you're too lazy to play the game like yourself, you can watch me play the entire thing and go through about 7 hours of torture in 15 minutes on my channel. Like, it was fun, but I'm not one for jump scares or loud shit that just wants to kill me, and Arid has a lot of that. However, the game is free, man. So, $0, £0, nothing. So unless you're a little there's no reason not to buy this and see how you get on. Arid is technically classed as a survival game since you go around the map gathering things and crafting them into better things while you hydrate and eat food every 2 minutes, which is honestly the premise for every single survival game in existence. But the story and exploration in general is actually a bigger focus. Like, for the most part, in daytime at least, it's just a walking simulator set in a desert village. But at night, it's something. I don't want to spoil anything since most of it ties into the storyline, but you literally cannot fight back. All you can do for the most part is run and clench your ass. Anyways, I have one friend on Steam who reviewed the game, so let's see what Shrelmo thinks.
Hi, I'm Shrelmo. I got scared for the second cave after seeing dead bodies in first one, so I stopped.